Welcome back to Crop Talk with Karston. I'm Karston Donovan, and we're happy to be joined today by Gary Heilig with Crop West Insurance. Always great to have Gary with us. Just give us a quick little tidbit about who you are, Gary, and what Crop West Insurance is.
Thanks, Karston. It's great to be on here again with you today. I'm Gary Heilig Jr., President and owner of Crop West Insurance Incorporated, located in Spokane, Washington. Crop West is I guess, a large group of independent agents throughout the West that have basically linked together to, I guess, provide benefits for farmers and for crop insurance agents. So it's been doing this for about 27 years. Used to work for Rain and Hail for a long, long time, for 20 years or so. And happy to be here with you today and want to try to help shed some light on some of the most current issues that are coming up in the world of crop insurance as well as FSA.
Yeah, one extra little quick tidbit about Gary is I don't know if you listen to maybe the crop insurance podcast or essentially any agents that you talk to that work with Gary on a regular basis, just rave about his knowledge of the crop insurance industry, him just as a person in general. So thought who better to listen to about some current issues and things that farmers are facing right now related to crop insurance. So we'll get started talking about kind of I think in a sense the biggest topic right now would be disaster relief programs, with that being SDRP Stage 2 as well as the Bridge Assistance Program. So Gary, what are just some helpful tips or reminders that you have for farmers as they're filling out these applications, and then when can they expect these relief payments to come?
Yeah. So some of the tips I guess I would give is have patience. SDRP2 is much, much different than SDRP1 was. SDRP1 was based upon if you had a crop insurance indemnity, it was pretty straightforward. It was they calculated it, they sent the payments out, and that one, they sent 35% of the total amount of budget dollars that they have for it until they got done all the way through phase two. And then if there's additional money left over at the end of that, then they can prorate it out, which we've seen in previous FSA programs. Um, I've seen a wide variance of Farm Service Agency offices and how much they're willing to help and provide services to the growers. I've seen a very wide range of that. For the most part, the FSA county offices have been amazing and stuff, but I have heard of some farmers that felt that it's way more complicated than what they thought it was going to be, especially when it comes to determining the quality portion of that. So SDRP2 for specialty crops and well as regular crops is there's basically additional funding, and it's meant to cover shallow losses as well as loss to the physical quality of the commodity that you grew. So each commodity is different and gets more complex, but that can be a tedious process of trying to prove what was the commodity worth on the day that I sold it, what would it have been if there had been no quality deficiencies, and then how do I then going back and trying to prove what was what you got for it. That can be a very long and time consuming process. But my biggest tip would be is don't give up. Get a good idea of, is it worth going through all of the steps to try to prove my quality. Hopefully it is. If it's not, then you can choose not to. As I understand it, you can choose not to. You can choose to forego looking at any quality, and that is a choice. You'd be giving up potential dollars if it qualified, but that is your choice. So I would just say, be patient, work your way through it, and try to work with your county offices as much as you can. Those payments, I believe, are still going to be under the same rules of the county committee will have to sign off on them, same as the previous versions, to where they have to go through and be approved by the county committees. So I would say once your application has gone through and been approved, I would think payment would go out quite quickly after that. The farmer bridge assistance, when they first released those final payment rates, which for if you're a wheat grower was very positive, it was higher than the higher range of what they thought it was going to be. I'd kind of, and I don't know if I'm alone in this, but I thought that when they sent that out, it was making it sound like the money would be out by the end of February. Like that would kind of be as long as it would take to get it to go out. Um, I think it was Brooke Rollins or Richard Fordyce a couple of days ago said that no, that money will start to go out around the end of February and could go out into March and other things like that. So the Farmer Bridge Assistance has got your regular, I think it's 22 commodities, the FSA program crops, but then there's a billion outside of that that's being earmarked for specialty crops, and that's going to be coming much, much further down the road for some of the growers that raise, I would say, crops like apples and pears and cherries and things like that.
Okay. And then I guess on that same topic, just a couple other quick thoughts I guess I had off of that is a couple of the questions that I feel like we as maybe the crop insurance agents get asked the most from the farmers just to address would be if you were to give the farmers a quick tip of on that quality loss aspect. And I know there's that uh, form and all that to fill out that they can find on the USDA website. For the quality aspect, would you recommend farmers try and do some of that on their own or with their crop insurance agent, or kind of what was told to us anyways, is it best for them to maybe print off or get the settlement sheet from wherever they sold it, take that in and possibly see if they can get the FSA representatives to help them with that?
No, I think the best tip I could give is yes, absolutely get your settlement sheets and all of your, anything that you've sold and delivered and stuff like that is get all that data because you're going to have it at some point. I would try to put as much of it and organize it to the best of my ability before I have my appointment with the Farm Service Agency. But I would do as much of that work getting it kind of summarized. And then I would definitely work with the FSA person that you have your appointment with to go through it to make sure that you're doing it right. Now, they may say, okay, here's the finer points. This is what you're going to need. This is how you've done a great job on summarizing this. This is the way we have to have it on the form. I would leave it. I would make sure that I knew exactly everything that I was signing my name to, and that I had all of the numbers in the right places and stuff. But I think the fastest way to get moving on that is to get all your settlement sheets, get them organized, and then go to your meeting with the FSA office and then get additional details from them.
Okay. And then again, the same question. I feel like we got this on, the first stage, I guess, of SDRP, but also just following on stage two here. The loss, if you did have a loss, and it's obviously it's shallow losses that it's covering, but let's say you did have a loss, maybe it didn't even pay. But on the crop insurance side, does your notice of loss have to match what you write down on the SDRP applications?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Yep. Just wanted to double check that. I know that's kind of what we've told people, but we do get that question very often. So just wanted to address that.
There are so
Um,
many things that there are so many weather events and things that can damage a crop during a crop year.
mhm,
Trying to get that to match 100% is going to be very difficult. A lot of the crop insurance company systems will only allow one cause of loss to be put in when the adjuster works your claim. There could have been 6 or 7 different types
mhm.
of provable weather events, acts of God that may have damaged and taken down the yield of that crop. So yeah, you're never going to get it to match.
hmm So kind of moving on to the next topic. I mean, it relates to the FSA office and decisions that farmers make there, but the one big beautiful bill brought a lot of beneficial benefits for farmers on many different fronts, but one of those being the ARC and PLC front, such as high reference prices. But I think one aspect that isn't really talked about a whole lot right now that wanted to have you touch on a little bit is how the enrollment timeline is different this year, and how that can be beneficial for farmers when they can make that decision for this
And that
2026.
is a great question, and that's been a very fluid situation because of the bill, and now they're having a lot of I guess the inner workings and the nuts and bolts and the rules being drafted on it and stuff. Undersecretary Fordyce from USDA was quoted as saying, just recently that 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 ARC and PLC decision and the enrollment is in this is not the sole cause of it, but he said that the FSA offices of getting enrollment, they have so much on their plate between all the disasters and all the different things. Is he said that the workload at the county FSA offices is certainly going to was part of the decision making process on that. But basically, he stated, and I wrote it down, and it's on uh, Farm Policy News today. He stated producers will know their 2026 production and yields before they decide whether to elect and subsequently enroll in ARC and PLC for the 2026 crop year. So that is a very, very big statement from the undersecretary. And it's basically kind of a change in how we've looked at the last two or three farm bills and ARC and PLC. At one point we made one choice and you had to live with it for the life of the farm bill. Then we got into where you could change it and go between ARC and PLC from year to year. Now it's looking like the FSA and the USDA are moving towards you'd still have that choice, but you're going to get a longer window into the crop year to be able to make your decision on what you do. So they're going to let the farmers get their spring crops planted. And based on his statement, it said that they will know their production and yields. That's basically their production is going to be how many acres did they plant everything. And then their yields, which almost makes it sound like they're going to get past harvest before they make their decision. So now that's just based upon what he said just recently and was quoted as saying. I haven't seen any of there isn't anything out there that I'm aware of right now that shows when the true deadline is for when it's going to producers will have to make that final decision, but it's going to give them a huge benefit as to getting more and more data to be able to make the best decision for their operation as to which one of these things is going to pay more, ARC or PLC. So I think that's a huge improvement to the program. That's, I applaud that kind of thinking as to, we need these safety nets. We need them now more than ever. And giving farmers more time to make those extremely important decisions, I think is a good thing.
And I guess just to follow on that, is there any sort of talk, if farmers remember for the 25 crop year, due to when the bill came out, they'll get the better of our PLC for 25. Is there any talk of that following into 26, or essentially just the extended timeline for 26?
Well, that's a great question, because based upon what he said is that they will know their 2026 production and yields. If you already have it harvested and you know how much you planted and you know how many base acres you have, you're going to be able to essentially choose which one is going to pay you more, if you understand what I'm saying. So
Mhm.
I think it's almost like an extension of what they did in 2025. I think it'll be put more onus on the farmer to make sure that he does his math and he checks and makes sure that he's picking the one that pays the most. Where 2025, it's the system will automatically calculate those for you. But based upon his recent comments, I think that it would be a huge benefit to the growers to be able to choose which one is probably going to ultimately pay them more money.
Yeah. Well, next question or topic I guess I have to talk about is for the 25 crop year, the dry pea harvest prices came out pretty recently. A good amount of them being lower than what the projected price was, which kind of follows suit with a lot of the commodities that we've seen, such as wheat and all that. So, a question that we get quite a bit after that is, well, what do we think the projected prices are going to be for the 26 crop year? Obviously, that. Um, Projected prices haven't been released yet. They haven't even been tracked yet. But ultimately, obviously, this time when farmers are planning for the next year, everybody's looking for that ever elusive crop right now that they can sell for high dollars. But I guess all in all, do you have any insight on what maybe we can expect for the projected prices for dry peas and maybe some of these other spring crops?
Okay. Well, revenue protection for the pulse crops is that's owned by Watson Associates in Billings, Montana. So Alex Offerdahl is a brilliant man and somebody I consider a good friend. Is he's in charge of all of that, and Watts is of basically calculating the projected prices and the harvest prices. I would say, I guess off the top of my head is those prices dropped quite a bit compared to what they were. And that's basically a synopsis of what was that crop, the 25 crop for the most part sold at. That does not bode anything well for what do future prices look like going into 2026. Now, the post markets, they're not traded on exchanges like we would have for wheat. So I would say, a lot of times you can have a low harvest price for wheat, but depending on the outlook and the global demand for wheat, the futures prices may not change that much for the next year looking out there. So, but I think in these more thinly traded types of commodities, the more specialized you get, they're very subject to price fluctuations and things like that. So I don't think uh, we won't know for sure until Watts releases those prices. But I would say that as of right now, with having harvest prices calculated that recently that were that much lower, I would say that's probably not a great omen.
Yeah. Yep. And like you said, we will find out, usually find out at the beginning of March around that time. So you can make those coverage decisions before the March sales closing deadline. So talking about that deadline, what are some coverages just to kind of be on the lookout for, that farmers should be on the lookout for, that maybe they should look at this year or change from prior years that they maybe either want to increase coverage or add some sort of coverage before the spring sales closing deadline for this year.
Well, I would say, first of all, I'd say if they've taken any disaster money that required them to have the 2-year linkage, and a lot of times it's, you may have collected on a crop that you may not plant every single year. I'd make sure first and foremost that you have at least a 60% coverage level and you have a policy in place for all of the crops that you may have collected disaster on that are required to. So that would be the first thing I would do. Second thing I would look at is look at the products that have received the most amount of new subsidies. So the One Big Beautiful Bill added subsidy to basically all of the underlying, the revenue protection and yield protection based upon coverage level that you take. But we saw massive increases in the amount of subsidy for SCO and ECO and margin coverage option and things like that. So I think that if you've been taking those endorsements. I'm in the state of Montana for sure. They've performed quite well, especially in the northern half of Montana. If you've been doing them, I would say keep doing those things as long as it makes sense for you. Make sure that the guarantees still are adequate and make sense. If you've never taken those, you really need to talk to your crop insurance agent and run some scenarios to look at SCO and ECO at an 80% subsidy where you're only paying 20% of the premium. That is a huge gift, and you really should take a look at it. Thirdly, I would say probably the private products. We're seeing more and more private products be developed for different, just basically problem solving, trying to figure out what is it that farmers, what are the risks that they're facing, and is there something that federal crop insurance has not developed that could cover something that a group of people find as a common risk that they would like to basically insure against. So all the crop insurance companies, for the most part, have their own different types of products. They can't call it the same thing. They have to call it something different. So if the first company invents it, they get a patent on it or whatever, and they copyright it. Somebody else can come up with and do what we call a Me Too filing. They can go to the state saying we've developed something very similar. We want to get filed for it as well, but they have to call it something, a different name, a different acronym. But we see quite a bit of traction in some of those private products. One thing I think it's worth talking about is one of the crop insurance companies. They no longer do business out west anymore, but they have now come up with a new private product for this spring for it's called cash lease protection insurance. So basically, it's kind of like LRP for corn and soybean prices. It's just for corn and beans. It's just for the Midwest, but it's similar to like a put option where you can choose the projected price or the futures price for what harvest is going to be for your area. And then you can basically take a coverage level of that all the way up to 95%. It's not subsidized. It has no federal, it's not part of the federal program by any means or whatever, but you can insure up to the total amount of the cash lease that the tenant is on the hook for paying. So obviously, an insurance company would spend the time and the money to develop a product if they didn't think that there was a need for it. And I would say that considering, with the most recent WASDA report, and we just, whether you believe it or not, the USDA coming out with a 17 billion bushel corn crop that dropped prices pretty significantly. There's a lot of people worried about being able to pay their cash lease, and then landlords being, having the reasonable expectation that they're going to get that cash lease payment to them. Average cash lease for the United States was $161 an acre this last year. That is a new record high. Continues to go up each year. You're really going to have to, this is kind of addressing a concern that farmers have, is that I want to make sure that I have enough money to pay my cash leases so I don't lose that ground. This is another way of doing it. So I think that the insurance companies have done a good job of trying to identify pressure points and things like that, and then try to solve for them.
Yeah. And then I guess more so just a personal question for myself because I'm interested in it. But one last bonus question I have from you, just from what you've seen, is AI is a very hot topic right now. Everybody probably sees some AI generated videos, some funny things like that. But ultimately, how do you see artificial intelligence being implemented to benefit crop insurance from the farmer standpoint?
Well, I do think that if they choose to, depending on how they do it, now it's going to come in kind of two different waves. I think the first part will be from the crop insurance agency side. Will be saying, okay, we put all of your data together for your personal operation, and these are already being done today. Is basically we've run all the data, and our artificial intelligence has looked at it and said, based upon your risk portfolio, this is what the system is showing as the best way for you to spend your premium budget dollars for your crop insurance. So that's one way of doing it. The farmers, you're trusting that, the AI that they're using, are they asking the right questions? Have they done it the correct way? The other way that could be done on that is the farmers take their own data, they create their own closed loop artificial intelligence chat GBT that's closed loop, where they can upload all of their personal documents from their farm, their maps, their everything that they have for their farm. You could load it in, and you're the only one that can see it, and you're the only one that can use it. That's very, very important, that no one else can see your data and have access to it. If they were to pay to have those types of systems built, then they can simply start asking their own AI tool that very same question, is based on my risk, my maps, my soil types, my seed costs, my fertilizer costs, everything. What is the best use of my premium dollars that I have? I'm going to spend $26 is what I have budgeted for a crop insurance premium this year. What makes the most sense based on my historical analysis of my entire farm? That AI will go through all of that data in a very, very short amount of time and basically say, give suggestions and saying, I think that 80%, enterprise units with crop hail insurance of this amount, with fire insurance protection or whatever, and it will start to get more to a tailored made process of choosing of all these different insurance products, what is the best for my absolute individual operation? Because right across the fence line, it can completely change as far as risk and assets and all of the different things that you have. So I think that you'll start to see it first coming from the crop insurance agency side and the companies, and then I think for the tech savvy guys and the guys that want to control their own data and make their own decisions, and have their own sounding board, I think they spend the money to do it themselves.
Yeah. Have you seen, I guess in my mind, one way that I feel like it's probably already implemented, that maybe you've heard from some of the carriers is using AI automation to speed up claims and get that money out faster. Are you starting to see that quite a bit?
Oh yes, yeah, yeah, and underwriting is a lot of the companies are using artificial intelligence to assist the underwriters in answering questions. So if an agent like you, if you were to call one of your crop insurance carriers with a very technical question, the underwriter has access to, and a lot of the companies will have access to a basically a artificial intelligence chatbot that they can basically run your question through there to confirm what their thought process is. So I think it will help speed up underwriting. I know it's already speeding up claims because they can review them as they come through the company systems when they're uploaded. Where you used to have, dozens of claim auditors, back in the day that used to have to sift through those to make sure that before that check went out, are we paying the correct amount? We want to make sure that we're not, if we owe the farmer a dollar, we're going to pay him a dollar, not a dollar 10 or 90 cents. We're going to pay him the dollar that is due to him. Now artificial intelligence can basically refine that process and do so much of that stuff automatically that helps speed up and gets checks out the door a lot faster. I think that USDA through the Farm Service Agency could take, hopefully with the new funding that they got from the One Big Beautiful Bill for their computer systems, I'm hoping that they will use artificial intelligence to help speed up some of these disaster programs and some of these things to get that money out the door faster. I mean, the time right now to get money out the door to these farmers is right now before they, it's go time. I mean, you're redoing loans, you're buying fertilizer, you're doing all of these things, and waiting an extra 3 or 4 months for a check to at this time, considering all of the headwinds that farmers are facing today, is you need that money sooner than later. So that would
Mhm.
be my thought on that.
Yeah. All great things. I think that's probably all we have time for today. So
Okay.
thank you, Gary. Do you have any, I guess, closing thoughts or remarks before we end it?
No, and if you want to do these, periodically, I'm happy to come on and do these things. The world is moving so fast right now, and there's so many things coming out. If I'm always happy to jump on and talk with you and try to help as many farmers as possible.
Awesome. Well, thank you. And thanks for those that listened. Hopefully this brought a lot of value to everybody, and please continue to follow along as we come out with more videos.